Welcome to Storytime Boulevard, your destination to sleep. My name is Andrew, and as always, I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. In this evening's story, we'll travel to the golden heart of Marrakesh, in the enchanting land of Morocco, to a hidden library tucked behind a rose-colored door, where forgotten dreams are quietly preserved and gently remembered. It's called the Dream Archivist of Marrakesh. But before we begin, let's take a moment to settle in. Go ahead and take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the surface beneath you, the bed, the couch, the earth, holding you completely. Take another slow breath. This time, breathe in stillness. And as you exhale, release anything that's been weighing on your heart. There's nothing you need to do now. Nowhere you need to be. Just rest. And let the story guide you the rest of the way. Let's begin. In the heart of Marrakesh, where the alleys twist like threads on an ancient loom, there exists a place not found on maps, nor spoken of aloud, only whispered about in sleep, and only found by those who need it most. The air here is thick with the scent of sandalwood and orange blossom. Shadows stretch long and golden. Somewhere, a flute plays a tune that sounds like memory. This is where we find Amara, a woman adrift. Once full of fire, Amara had given too much of herself to too many things for too long. Her smile, once quick and wide, had faded to something polite and tired. So she travelled across the sea, across time zones, across expectations, and landed in Morocco, hoping to rest, to breathe, to feel again. Amara had always believed in beginnings. New notebooks, fresh calendars, the way a sunrise could turn a city golden and make even old dreams feel possible again. But lately the days had begun to blur. There had been too many to-do lists, too many emails, too many people needing her to be everything. The vibrant woman who once danced barefoot in rain puddles and sang out loud on empty staircases had grown quiet, polite, professional, efficient, exhausted. So when the invitation came, in the form of a one-way ticket to Morocco, gifted by a friend who saw her fading, she didn't say no. And now, here she was, Marrakesh, a city of colour and chaos and poetry, where cats lounged in doorways like they owned the world, and the scent of oranges mingled with dust and history. She wandered the Medina with no destination, letting her body choose the direction while her mind tried to slow down. The alleyways curled around her like vines, dusty pinks, sun-bleached blues, ochres warm as honey. She passed vendors calling out in 3 languages, children chasing kites made of scrap silk, and women in flowing djellabas sipping mint tea from tiny, clinking glasses. The sounds of the city were alive, but never harsh. A rhythmic hum, a gentle percussion of footsteps, laughter, distant drums, and the rustling of silk. Gold, paprika red, indigo blue. The vendor, an older woman, with silver threaded through her braids, offered her a small pinch of something. Za'atar, she said softly, as if sharing a secret. Amara smiled and took it. The taste bloomed in her mouth, savory, citrusy, unfamiliar and grounding. Something in her shifted. A breeze, cool and unexpected, tugged at the edge of her shawl. She turned. Down a narrow passage she hadn't noticed before, one that curved between 2 crumbling walls covered in bougainvillea. The light looked different. It shimmered, soft and golden, as if it belonged to a dream and had somehow spilled into daylight. She followed it. The alley narrowed, then widened again. The sound of the city grew muffled, like it was slipping underwater. She noticed an arched doorway, half hidden behind a woven curtain of silver beads that chimed faintly as the breeze moved through them. Beyond it was a rose-colored door, its surface worn smooth with time. She hadn't seen a soul in minutes, and yet she felt watched, not with suspicion, but with warmth, as though the alley itself had been waiting for her. She stepped forward. The brass doorknob, shaped like an open eye, gleamed in the fading light, and just above it, a plaque, almost invisible unless you were looking closely, read, "The Dream Archive, entry by invitation of the soul." Amara reached for the knob, her fingers brushing the cool metal. She didn't know why. She didn't know what was on the other side, only that something inside her, something old, something honest, whispered, "Go." So she did. The moment Amara stepped across the threshold, the world shifted, not suddenly, but like silk unraveling, or warm tea spreading through cold hands. The city vanished behind her, like a sigh. She was no longer in the Medina. She was somewhere else. The space was quiet, but not silent. It hummed, a low, comforting vibration, like the sound of pages turning, or deep water murmuring in a forgotten cave. The lighting came from floating lanterns that drifted lazily in the air, casting soft gold halos on the curved stone walls. The walls themselves shimmered faintly, as if remembering something. It smelled of sandalwood, jasmine, and the faint tang of old parchment. But deeper than that, was something else. A scent she couldn't name, but somehow recognized. It smelled like the dreams she used to have as a girl, ones she could never quite remember upon waking, but always missed. The space stretched in every direction, yet it wasn't overwhelming. It felt held, infinite but intimate. Around her, bookshelves spiraled like galaxies, not in straight rows, but in flowing curves like vines or river paths. And on those shelves were not books, but dreams. Some were nestled inside crystal orbs, gently glowing. Some were folded into silk pouches, tied with thread spun from starlight. Others were stored in carved wooden boxes, glass vials, pressed petals, and tiny music boxes that played lullabies no one had heard in years. And in the center of it all stood the archivist. They were tall, draped in indigo robes that shimmered like the night sky before a storm. Their eyes, deep and steady, were the kind that seemed to see not just you, but the stories behind your smile, the weight behind your eyes, the places you still ached to be. Their voice was low and melodic, like honey over a drumbeat. "Welcome," they said, not as a greeting, but as a truth. Amara stared, unsure what to say. "Where am I?" The archivist's smile was soft. "You are in a place that exists between breath and dream, a library of all that was once hoped for and not yet forgotten." They extended their hand, palm open. "This is the archive, and you've been expected." Amara stepped closer, feeling her body respond with something unfamiliar. Trust. As she followed the archivist deeper into the archive, she passed other dreamers, quiet, wandering figures who moved with reverence. A man traced his fingers over a glowing orb, smiling softly, as if seeing an old friend. A child, perhaps no older than 10, sat with her feet dangling off the edge of a floating bench, watching the clouds in a glass jar shift into shapes only she could name. And somewhere, a young woman read from a scroll that made her eyes shine with tears, not of sadness, but of remembering. The archivist led Amara down a corridor where the shelves seemed to tilt slightly toward her, as though listening. Along the way, they spoke gently. Every soul who passes through this city leaves something behind, a wish, a worry, a what if. We collect those pieces. We hold them until their dreamers are ready to come home. Amara's heart ached at the words. Had she really left herself somewhere? Had she been sleepwalking through her own life without knowing it? She stopped walking, overwhelmed. "I don't know what I'm looking for," she said quietly. The archivist turned to her, eyes glowing with kindness. You don't need to know. The dream will know you. They placed a hand gently over her heart. Listen. And in that moment, something stirred inside her. Soft, fluttering, like the wing beat of a bird that had been resting a very, very long time. As Amara followed the archivist through the winding halls of the archive, the space seemed to grow more alive with every step. The floating lanterns pulsed gently above her, dimming and brightening in time with the hush of unseen wind. Whispers curled in the corners, like mist, not alarming, but familiar, as if someone were gently reading bedtime stories to the shelves themselves. The archivist gestured toward a circular chamber, lined with sunken seating made of velvet and carved stone. A quiet hum filled the air, part lullaby, part memory. Within this room, Amara saw them, the other dreamers. Youssef. He sat cross-legged near a fountain that dripped slowly into a silver bowl, creating ripples with perfect rhythm. Youssef was a man of perhaps 50, with sun-browned skin, expressive eyes, and fingers that twitched as if searching for a piano that wasn't there. Around him floated dozens of small orbs, each glowing with soft sound, lullabies, notes of unfinished songs, harmonies never played aloud. I used to compose music in my sleep, he told Amara when their eyes met. Woke up humming symphonies. But then life grew too loud. My own melodies got drowned out. He smiled, wistful but warm. Now I'm here, remembering the quiet notes, the ones I forgot I loved. As Amara sat beside him for a moment, one of the sound orbs hovered near her ear and released a few delicate piano notes. They settled into her chest like a forgotten heartbeat. Lisa appeared next, a young woman in flowing linen, her hands stained with watercolor, her curls pinned up with tiny paintbrushes. She sat before an easel that held no canvas, just air, and yet as she painted, colors bloomed from her brush like butterflies. I followed a red moth into the archive, she said to Amara with a quiet laugh. It flew out of a dream I had during a nap on a train. I've been here ever since. Lisa painted her dreams as they came, some joyful, some strange, some aching. I paint the ones people leave behind. That way, they don't disappear. She turned the brush toward Amara for a moment, her gaze focused. Then she smiled, dipping it into a pot of starlight. You have a dream too, Lisa said, but it's layered in mist. We'll peel it back, together. And then there was Noura. She was the oldest among them, wrapped in soft shawls, eyes crinkled with the weight of wisdom and love. She didn't seem to move so much as appear wherever she was needed. Nora sat in a sunken nook with shelves surrounding her like a cradle. Books rested on her lap, and dream scrolls spilled over her cushions like fallen leaves. She was reading aloud to no one in particular, or perhaps to the archive itself. Amara sat beside her, drawn to her stillness. "Every dream tells a story," Nora said without looking up. "Some people forget the ending. Others forget there ever was a beginning." Her voice was like warm tea. "I came here long ago to find a story I thought I had lost. But it turned out I was simply living in the middle of it." She looked at Amara now, eyes soft and endless. "You're in the middle too. That's why you're here." Later, the dreamers gathered in a candlelit alcove, where cups of tea brewed themselves, and cushions seemed to sigh when someone sat down. No one rushed. No one filled silence needlessly. They spoke in turns, shared memories as if passing stones, not to burden each other, but to feel their smooth weight together. Youssef played a few notes on a flute made of polished glass. Lisa painted tiny symbols on teacups that shimmered and changed when touched. Nora told a story about a fox who carried a dream in its tail, passing it on every time someone fell asleep beneath the stars. And Amara, she listened. She felt something inside her, something once quiet and crumpled, begin to stretch. Not a full awakening, not yet, but a shift, a turning toward herself without flinching. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone in her forgetting or in her remembering. Later that night, if time could even be called night here, the dreamers drifted into rest, their energy settling into the hush of the archive like mist returning to the sea. The lanterns dimmed to a dusky glow. Whispers faded into stillness, and Amara remained. She sat on a low cushion near a fountain carved from what looked like glass moonstone. Water trickled gently through it, its rhythm syncing with the quiet thrum of her pulse. The archivist returned, carrying a tray of small velvet bundles, each one stitched with a single symbol: a star, a feather, a key, a flame. They moved slowly, with care, the kind of care only those who truly see you can offer. They sat beside Amara and opened one of the bundles. Inside was a tiny scroll, tied with red thread, frayed at the ends. "This is the earliest dream you've archived," the archivist said softly, placing it in her hand. Amara hesitated. Her palms tingled. Something about the weight of it felt sacred. She untied the thread and unrolled the scroll. At first, There were only lines, uneven and childlike. But then she saw it. A drawing. A little girl in a treehouse made of clouds. She wore a crown of stars and held a notebook in her lap. In the background, an enormous moon smiled down at her like a parent watching over a sleeping child. Tears welled in Amara's eyes before she understood why. "I used to draw this over and over," she whispered. "I told people I wanted to be a writer, but I think what I really wanted was a place where I belonged." The archivist nodded. "That was your first dream of freedom, not escape, but being truly yourself, without apology." They reached into the tray again and pulled out a small glass bottle sealed with wax. It held a swirl of violet mist and smelled faintly of rain and cinnamon. Amara uncorked it. Instantly, a feeling wrapped around her. Not memory, but sensation. She was 19 again, standing in the middle of a thunderstorm on a quiet street, soaked to the skin and laughing uncontrollably. It had been the first time she'd said no to something she didn't want, and yes to something she did, even though it scared her. She had forgotten how brave that moment felt. Another item, a folded letter, yellowed at the edges. It was addressed to someone she'd never sent it to. Someone she loved once, deeply. Someone she thought she had healed from. She opened it and read the first line, then stopped. "I wrote this," she said, "the night I chose to let go." The archivist placed a warm hand on hers. "Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for what's next." They continued like this, a vial of perfume that reminded her of her grandmother's kitchen at dusk, a music box that played a lullaby her mother sang only once when she thought Amara was asleep, a pressed flower long faded from a trip she had taken on a whim. The last time she felt truly spontaneous. Each memory came not like a flood, but like soft waves washing against her toes, easing her back into herself. And then came the final offering, a small silver key. No label, no box, just the key. Amara held it and asked, "What does it open?" The archivist didn't answer with words. They simply turned, and a door appeared behind them, one that hadn't been there before. It was shaped like a heart turned sideways, worn at the edges, but waiting. "Only you can go through," the archivist said, "and only when you're ready." Amara nodded. She didn't need to open it tonight. Just knowing it was there was enough. As she lay down in a hammock, woven from starlight and dusk, the other dreamers around her, sleeping gently, Amara felt something in her chest she hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not the stillness of numbness, but the kind that comes after remembering who you are. She whispered a quiet thank you into the silence. not just to the archivist or the archive, but to herself for coming. And somewhere in the library's endless shelves, a new dream began to glow. Not a return to the past, but a soft reunion with the future. The dreamers had all begun to drift into a restful hush. The archive, so alive with murmuring shelves and lantern-lit laughter just hours before, had settled into a soft, sacred stillness, like the moment after a lullaby has ended, when the heart is still listening. Lisa now slept curled beside a stack of glowing paints, her brush resting gently on her chest like a sleeping cat. Youssef leaned against the curved wall of the silver fountain, his eyes closed, the rhythm of water matching the rise and fall of his breath. And Noura had faded completely into the shelves, her voice now echoing faintly from within a book someone would one day find, perhaps centuries from now. Amara remained awake, not because she couldn't sleep, but because something inside her had changed. She didn't need to close her eyes to feel peace anymore. The archivist returned, their footsteps soundless as silk over stone. They carried a small bundle wrapped in twilight-coloured cloth, indigo that shimmered with gold threads, as if stardust had been woven into the fabric. They held it out to Amara. A final gift, they said. She took it with reverence, holding it in both hands, as though it might disappear if she blinked. Unwrapping it slowly, Amara uncovered a smooth, round stone, cool at first, but slowly warming to the touch as it settled into her palm. It was the size of her heart's center, fitting perfectly in the hollow between her fingers and her chest. It shimmered faintly with hues that shifted depending on the angle. Pearl, rose quartz, soft amber. Etched into one side was a symbol she knew instinctively. Not because she had seen it before, but because it had always been part of her. It was her dream, her truth, her becoming. She looked up at the archivist. "What is it?" she asked softly. They smiled. "It is your becoming, made whole, the part of you that remembered, the part that came here in silence and stayed long enough to listen." The archivist closed her fingers gently around the stone. "Place it under your pillow tonight. It will hold your dream for you, not to keep it safe from others, but to keep it safe from forgetting." Amara's throat tightened, but she nodded. She understood. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's you," the archivist replied. Then, from the shelves behind them, something extraordinary happened. One by one, the archive itself began to offer small, quiet, parting gifts. From a high alcove, a glass vial floated gently into the air and nestled itself beside Amara's hand, the scent of rain and laughter sealed inside. From a velvet pouch on a curved bench, a tiny feather drifted down, twirling in the air like a memory dancing. A folded slip of music paper, written in Yusef's careful hand, landed near her heart, a fragment of a song only the soul would recognize. And from Lisa's still hand, a painted stone, marked with a swirl of colours only seen in dreams, rolled softly across the floor and settled at Amara's feet. Amara looked around, eyes wide, breath caught in awe. Why are they giving these to me? The archivist's voice was calm. Because you gave something too. Your truth, your presence, your willingness to feel again. The archive remembers every offering. She held the stone to her heart, the others tucked safely in her lap. She didn't feel weighed down. She felt restored, as if every piece she thought she had lost had simply been waiting in this quiet place, right where she'd left them, and now they were coming home. The archive did not ask her to leave. It simply began to shift. The soft lanterns dimmed to a hushed glow. The velvet warmth of the air began to cool, not cold, but like the early breath of dawn. Even the walls, once alive with glowing symbols and murmuring shelves, began to still, as though the archive itself was settling into slumber. Amara stood beneath the silver tree in the center of the dream hall, the final curls of candle smoke rising around her like silk. She had no bag, no belongings, just her body, her breath, and the soft stone the archivist had given her, still warm in the palm of her hand. She looked down at it again, smooth, pearl-colored, and faintly etched with a symbol she recognized now. The same one she had drawn 1,000 times as a girl, tucked in the corner of doodles and diary pages. A door appeared ahead, not the rose-colored one she had entered through. This one was simple, wooden, with gentle golden light leaking through the edges like morning creeping past a curtain. The archivist appeared one last time, their presence as steady as always, though their eyes seemed even softer now, reflective, like water at twilight. "You are ready," they said. Amara stepped forward. "Will I remember all of this?" she asked, not with panic, but a deep hope. "You will remember what matters," they said, brushing a strand of hair from her brow like a blessing. "And what you forget, the heart will keep safe until you return." She turned once more toward the room, toward Lisa, still painting in her sleep. her brush glowing faintly under the starlight. Toward Youssef, whose fingers now rested quietly in his lap. A quiet smile on his face as he slept beside the silver bowl. Toward Nora, who had already disappeared into her books like a whisper tucked into the spine of a story. Amara pressed her hand to her chest, a silent goodbye, a soft thank you. And then she stepped through the door. The first thing she felt was light, golden and warm on her eyelids. Then the softness of sheets, the weight of a blanket, the low rustle of morning birds just beyond the open window. She blinked. Her Riyadh room was exactly as it had been the night before, simple, sun-washed, fragrant with the scent of orange trees. But she was different, lighter, rooted, whole. She sat up slowly, placing her feet on the cool tile floor, and that's when she saw it, resting gently on her pillow. The stone, still warm, still real. She smiled, not the tired, practiced smile of before, but something gentler, full of knowing, full of return. Not everything would be perfect. There would still be noise, schedules, people, decisions. But now, she carried a softness within her that could not be taken, a quiet certainty that her dreams were not gone, only waiting. And somewhere behind the winding alleys of Marrakesh, hidden from maps, but never from the soul, the archive remained, watching, listening, keeping the stories safe, until the next dreamer finds their way home. The end. Good night, dreamer. You are never too far from the place that remembers you. Sleep well, and may your soul always know the way back. From all of us here at Storytime Boulevard, thank you for letting us be part of your journey tonight. Until next time,